Hi everybody, welcome back to Am's Untitled Podcast. I'm Am. Hi, if you've never before, welcome to my podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Sea of Monsters book. So this is part two. So this is the second half of the book. So I recommend if you haven't heard my review of the first half to go and listen into that first before listening to this, because this is a direct continuation. So obviously, I've split the book in half. There's 20 chapters in the Sea of Monsters book. It's the shortest book in the series. It still has 20 chapters. The chapters are just a little bit shorter. So we're going to start from chapter 11, which is Clarisse blows everything up. So the chapter sort of opens up with Clarisse yelling at the trio, so Tyson, Percy, and Annabeth, that she basically tells them they've been expelled from Camp Half-Blood for sneaking off without telling anybody. And then, they sort of ask her, where did you get the ship from? And she said that her father, Ares, gave it to her to help her complete the quest. The only twist on the ship is that she's got dead soldiers like walking around on the ship, which is a bit creepy to say the least. But yeah, I suppose you take what you've got, I guess. You know. And then Annabeth tells Clarisse about Luke. So if you didn't know, in the part one of the book, they have like a whole Annabeth and Luke have a whole argument at the well towards the end of the first half, which is quite funny. And they realize that Clarisse is actually completing this quest on her own because none of her cabin mates wanted to come and help her, which is actually really sad. Like, can you imagine? She's the head counselor of the Aries cabin, and nobody bothered to help. Well, I know that she's a little rough around the edges, but still, like, I'd hope that somebody would have at least offered to help her complete the quest. And Percy has another dream about Grover, and he sees the Golden Fleece. So he basically is able to pinpoint the location where the Golden Fleece is. And he also has another dream where he hears a discussion between Clarisse and her father, and he's yelling at her, and he's being really horrible to her, as you'd expect the God of War to be. And he says, I should have made one of my sons do the quest, and all Clarisse is all about making her father happy, even though like it's one of those things where when there's people that you just can't please no matter what you do. I think Aries is one of them, but Clarisse, like any daughter or any son, would just want their parents to be proud of them, which is why she's on this quest. And then Tyson tells Percy that the ship, so because it's a steamship, he said that the engine's under a lot of pressure, like it's not working. I think one of this main things about Tyson is he's able to sense danger from a mile away. I guess he's kind of like Grover in that sense. And he said, "I'll go down and fix the engine." And, just as the ship is about to blow, Annabeth, Percy manage to find a lifeboat, and Clarisse and them also find a lifeboat. I think they go on a completely separate lifeboat. And as they get on the lifeboats, the ship explodes, and Percy wants to go and save Tyson, but just before he can do that, Hermes' magical thermos that he's given Percy opens up and it blasts Ursi. Oh my God. Word vomit. I'm so sorry. It blasts Percy out into the sea, and the chapter ends with a cliffhanger because we don't know where Tyson actually is. So, chapter 12 is we check into the CC spa and. So, the chapter opens as Percy wakes up on the rowboat. And he's feeling really guilty because of what's happened to Tyson. Tyson's just sacrificed his life for him, and he wasn't exactly the best half brother to him. And they realize that they're finally in the Sea of Monsters, so basically in the Bermuda Triangle. And Annabeth tells Percy that, I was wrong about the way I treated Tyson and the way I spoke to him. It was completely out out of turn, basically. And if, like I said, this is why you need to listen to the beginning of this review, so part one of this review, because Annabeth was quite harsh, but now she's starting to realize that Tyson is not like the other Cyclopses that she's known over the years. And Percy asks Annabeth about the prophecy, and one line stood out to me, which is, "A hero will decide the fate of Olympus." And I think deep down, they know that Percy is a child from the prophecy. They just don't want it to be true. And they eventually end up on this island uh, with a lady, and she sort of escorts them to a resort, which which is funny. Do you know what? I really like this scene. I don't know why. It cracks me up every single time I read it. And as they enter the resort, they hear a woman singing in Minoan. So that's I don't know what language. I know that it's Minoan, but I'm not sure if it's a Greek language or not. I'm not sure, but yeah. And she is called Cece, which is really funny. And she says, like, let's give you both a makeover. So she takes Annabeth and she says like, I'll do your hair. And she says to Percy, I'll give you a makeover as well, basically. So yeah, she gets one of her, I guess, the people that works for her to take Annabeth out, and she offers Percy a strawberry milkshake, which sounds delicious, by the way. Like, I was just like imagining it. I was like, oh, imagine how tempting that would be. And you'd think that Percy would hesitate to drink it because obviously it's quite obvious that there's some sort of magic going on here. And without any hesitation, he just picks it up and he drinks it. And he transforms into a guinea pig, which is the reason why Cece transforms him into a guinea pig is because she thinks all men are pigs, which so sorry if you're a guy listening to this. I don't think all men are pigs. It just made me laugh. Like that was her reasoning behind turning Percy into a guinea pig. It's hilarious. And then Annabeth comes back in with her hair done, and I pulled this quote from the book because this scene is so cute. He's put, I mean, she looked good, really good. Probably would have been tongue tied if I could have said anything except for reet reet reet. It's just so cute. I was like, ah, he's admiring her even in guinea pig form. It's so sweet. Little Percy Beth moment there. And Cece tells Annabeth to stay here with her. Like she offers, like, oh, why don't you stay with me? And at this point, she's not realized that Percy's been turned into a guinea pig. And eventually, she finds out, and she sees the multivitamins that Hermes had given Percy, and she takes one of the tablets basically, and it makes her immune to Circe. So Cece actually stands for Circe. She's a goddess, and I think she's a daughter of Hecate, from what I can remember, although I'm not necessarily sure. And she threatens to turn Percy. Well, she basically threatened Circe to turn my friend back, basically. And and she poured all the vitamin tablets into the cage that Percy's been put in, and it transforms him back, basically. And then these pirates that obviously Circe has also turned into guinea pigs in the past, because of the magical tablets, come back to their true human form and they start chasing her out of the scene, which is really funny. And what's so nice is like Annabeth hugs him and she says, "Oh, I'm glad you're okay." Oh, they're so cute. Oh, they're so cute. I actually can't. I can see it more now. Like, as I'm reading it back and I'm looking into these moments and I'm paying attention, I'm like, oh, they're adorable. Nobody can tell me they're not cute because I wouldn't believe you. And then Percy and Annabeth decide that they're going to need another ship to get out of there. And as they're running, the pirates are chasing them as well, and they eventually find this ship called Queen Anne's Revenge. I think that's what it's called. And Percy basically puts his hands on the floor and he uses the water, his water powers to take them out to sea, basically. And they set sail into the Sea of Monsters, and that's where the chapter ends. Chapter 13, which is my favorite chapter because of the Percy scene that's coming. It's called Annabeth Tries to Swim Home. Oh my God, I'm so excited to talk about this scene. So the chapter opens with Percy and Annabeth aboard the Queen Anne's Revenge. Annabeth tells Percy about why she hates cyclopses because of something that happened to her, Luke and Thalia, as they were heading to Camp Half-Blood. Percy has another dream about Kronos, and Annabeth tells him that they are approaching the island of the sirens, which is very, very important, and you'll find out why in a second. And Annabeth tells Percy that if you didn't know, so the sirens used to use songs to lure sailors to their deaths, basically. And Annabeth, in fact, tells him that, I want to hear their songs. I want to hear what they have to say about me. And she thinks that by listening to them, she'll become wiser. And Percy's not convinced, but for her sake, he was like, okay, we'll do it. So he basically plugs his own ears and he lets her go. And he's basically got her attached by a rope. And she says, no matter what happens, no matter how much I scream, shout, cry, plead, don't let go of the rope, basically. And then Annabeth is literally screaming and shouting and kicking as to what she can hear. Basically, she wants Percy to let her go, but he's made her a promise that he's not going to let her go. Do you actually think he'll let her go? Come on, let's be honest. Like, he wouldn't do that even if she told him to let her go. And eventually, Annabeth manages to wiggle her way out of the ropes, and Percy runs after her because he doesn't know where she is. He sees her close to the sirens, and as he's looking towards the sirens, it transforms into Sally, Poseidon, Grover, and Tyson, and he sees Chiron there as well. And then, just as he turns his head, he sees what the sirens are showing Annabeth, and he sees her father and Athena and Luke having a picnic. And, I can't imagine how difficult that must be for Percy because this girl that he doesn't realize he likes her yet, but she's dreaming about her parents and Luke. It's like after everything, she's still hanging on to these feelings for him. And I know that crushes are difficult to get over, but he just killed he nearly killed Percy. Like how can you even have those feelings towards him? I guess it's because she wasn't like present in that moment, so I guess she doesn't believe that Luke could do something so evil. And I think that moment, I think it would have been quite a difficult pill for Percy to swallow because it's like, oh my God, this girl, she's like completely gone out. And then Percy eventually grabs her and he pushes her under the water because he thinks that if he can keep her underneath long enough, the siren song will break and the spell will break and she'll go back to normal. And then eventually, when they come back out of the water, the spell's broken. And the first thing she does, I took this quote from the book as well, is she put her head on my shoulder and I just held her. And I was like, oh, I was like, that's so cute. Like, she realizes that she's made a mistake. But I think more than that, she just needed some sort of reassurance. So she just put her arms around Percy. And it's, oh, they're so cute. They're just so cute. I literally can't take it. I'm like, I can't wait to see what the show does with season two. Like, Siren Bay is the scene that I'm waiting for to see what they do with it. And I hope that they don't disappoint me. I mean, they didn't disappoint me in the first series, so my hopes are quite high for the second series. I am praying that I don't get disappointed, basically. I'm sure they won't. I'm sure they won't. I mean, Walker, Arian, and Leah, and Rick is one of the writers on the show as well, so they won't disappoint me. I know they won't. And then, they get back on the ship and they sail off. And then Percy tells Annabeth that he saw what the sirens had shown her, so he basically saw it from her perspective. And I don't think they talk much about it. I think it's just he just sort of lets her know that I know. And she tells him about her favorite, God's sake, her fatal flaw, which is hubris, which is basically deadly pride, the belief that you could do something better than anybody else, which is not good, basically. And eventually, as the chapter ends, they reach the home of the Cyclopses, and that's the end of the chapter. So, chapter 14 is We Meet the Sheep of Doom. Oh my God, these titles honestly kill me. Like, they make me laugh. So, the chapter opens with the Cyclopses island, basically. And Percy and Annabeth, as they're walking towards it, they can literally feel the power of the Golden Fleece. So they know that they're close. And as they're walking, they see the other lifeboat from Clarisse's boat, which was the CSS, the steamship Birmingham. And they're like, oh, so that means that she must be here as well. And they come across these scary looking sheep, is the only way I can put it. And they both can see, as they're walking towards the edge, they can see Clarisse Polyphemus, who is the Cyclops that's currently holding Grover captive. Why can't I speak today? Oh my God, I've chosen the wrong day to do this. I can't even talk. Anyway, and they see Tyson as well as Grover. And then Clarisse is basically dangling over this fire, like the Cyclops wants to eat her. Grover is in a wedding dress, and I'm not really sure what Tyson is doing, if I'm truthfully honest at this point. And she's basically hanging upside down. And Polyphemus is talking to Grover, and he calls him bride. And Clarisse is like, "Did you just call him a bride?" And then Annabeth is like watching them, and she's like, "Shut up, Clarisse! Shut up! Like you're gonna put Grover in more danger." And she just keeps talking, and then eventually Clarisse tells Polyphemus that Grover is in fact a satyr, and then he pulls Grover's wedding dress off, and he realizes that he's actually a satyr and not a lady Cyclops. One line that Clarice says to Polyphemus that made me laugh was, "You're an overgrown pile of dung." She's one of the funniest characters. Like, I think Sea of Monsters is literally her book. Like, she's an actual badass in the Sea of Monsters. She's got so many comical moments that make me laugh. And especially in this chapter, like, the things that she comes out with just cracks me up. And then they find out that Polyphemus is actually still getting married, but obviously, if he's not getting married to Grover, then who's he getting married to? And eventually, Clarisse finds out that she's in fact going to be his bride, and he sort of shoves her and Grover into a cave and seals it shut with a boulder. And then Annabeth and Percy come back into the equation, and they're trying to push the boulder, and they physically just can't. And Percy makes this is the Persassy coming out in him. He's like, I don't know which is more gross, the fact that he's gonna marry Clarisse or if he's gonna have Grover for dinner. Oh, I was like, you see, this is what I mean. Like, even in the direst of situations, Rick can put a moment of humor in there, and I really appreciate that. I don't know why. I just think it's really funny. It's just I love Persassy. I think it's great. So then Annabeth and Percy realise that they've got to find a way to sort of sneak in to um, retrieve the Golden Fleece, you could say. So Annabeth has got she's got her invisibility cap, so it's easy for her to sneak in. So her bright idea is for Percy to hang upside down on the bottom of a sheet. Which is clever. Like, if you think about it, it's very clever, but I can imagine quite difficult hold on to a sheep. And he does make a few sassy comments about the sheep that I didn't write down. So yeah, you should read it. It's really funny. And then eventually, once Annabeth's got her invisibility cap on, she sneaks back in to talk to Polyphemus, and she calls him ugly while she's invisible. So you can't see her, you can just hear her voice, and she introduces herself as nobody. And then eventually, Percy finds Clarisse and Grover, and he sort of grabs them, and they hear like a massive explosion, and all Percy can hear is Annabeth screaming, and that's where the chapter sort of ends. So it ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. So chapter 15 is Nobody Gets the Fleece. So the chapter opens with Polyphemus hanging Annabeth upside down above a fire again. Percy tries to save Annabeth by saying that he was actually the one who called Polyphemus ugly, and he says that, "Oh, I'm nobody." And then Polyphemus sort of drops Annabeth, but she lands on a set of rocks. Oh, bless her. She's probably. I prefer that flipping her, honestly. Oh, even when I read it, I was like, oh, that makes me feel funny. And then Clarisse, Grover, and Percy charge at Polyphemus. I love this. Like, I think this is the first time, especially for Clarisse, that she's ever had a team, because her so-called cabin mates couldn't even be bothered to help her on the quest. I mean, at least no matter what, I love that Clarisse and Percy are able to set their differences aside, just even if it's just for a split second, for to aim for the same goal. I think that's quite. I think it's a nice little team moment there. And then, Grover grabs Annabeth, and Clarisse and Percy make a run for it. So there's a massive bridge that gets to the other side of the island. And as Grover picks Annabeth up and he gets safely across, and Clarisse and Percy are running across the bridge. And Percy tells Grover, you cut the ropes. And Percy attacks the Cyclops on the bridge. And, the Cyclops is like, oh, I didn't mean it. I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. So he's basically pretending he does this whole drama scene. It's really funny. You should read it. And eventually he tries to grab Percy, but Tyson intervenes and he saves him, which is so nice. It's so nice. He had a little nice heroic moment there. I think Rick was trying to challenge this whole idea that cyclopses are dangerous. I think it's that idea that not just because somebody looks like a monster from the outside doesn't mean that they are. Sometimes they're actually the nicest people ever, which I think is what Rick is trying to say. And then, Tyson tells them how Rainbow, the campy that you met in the first half of the book, actually saved him when the ship blew up in the previous chapters. And, Tyson grabs the fleece and he throws it towards Percy, and Percy puts it on Annabeth because obviously she's still, I think at this point she's still unconscious, and she's definitely broken a couple of ribs if she's fallen. So the fleece can help to heal her. So he just wraps it around her, and obviously now they have to swim from the island to the ship because they've got no lifeboat or rowboat to get them across. So they're all swimming, and Polyphemus is following closely behind, and that's where the chapter sort of ends. So, chapter 16 is I go down with the ship, and it opens with Polyphemus calling Tyson a traitor to his kind because obviously Cyclopses aren't really supposed to get along with demigods, you could say. And Tyson and Percy actually they fight Polyphemus together. It's the first time you see them actually have that brother relationship. Even though they're only half brothers, they do have the same dad. And up to this point, Tyson has proven again and again that he's just as loyal to Percy as Percy is loyal to him, which I think is so nice. It kind of because Percy's been alone, no offense, but Percy's been a loner for so long. I think he was sort of very hesitant towards having any sort of family and things. But now that he has Tyson, I feel like it makes him a better character. He feels like he has somebody that he can rely on, which is really nice. And then Percy tells Polyphemus that he's actually a son of Poseidon as well, because if you didn't know, Polyphemus is a son of Poseidon. Let's not talk about Poseidon's affairs over the years. The only ever good thing that he did was have an affair with Sally Jackson and create Percy. That's the only good affair that he's ever done. And Tyson, of course, whoever Tyson's mother is. And Polyphemus tries to swing a tree at Percy, and he missed it. Sorry, I love it because this next note that I've taken is about Clarisse. And she grabs them and she helps them onto the deck. And she says, "Teach you to try marrying me, you idiot." This is literally, obviously, he's just escaped and he's like, "Clarisse, shut up." Like, I love their dynamics. I love this back and forth relationship that they have. One thing Rick is very good at is creating counter characters. And what I mean by that is he creates this one character and then he creates like somebody who's the complete opposite of them to like sort of have a rivalry with, which I love. I love Clarisse in this. I love her so much. She's so funny. And yeah, Polyphemus chucks a boulder at the ship and the ship eventually sinks. And luckily, the Hippocampi and Rainbow come to save them. They all each individually get on one, and Percy and Annabeth, because Annabeth still got the fleece wrapped around her, Percy puts his head on it, and he eventually falls asleep as well. They must have been so exhausted because up until this point, like every single time Percy's tried to go to sleep, he's had a nightmare. So I think he's probably exhausted, and obviously Annabeth is injured as well, so she's probably feeling a little bit as well. So the chapter ends with them both falling asleep. So chapter 17 is we get a surprise on Miami Beach. So the chapter opens with Annabeth waking Percy up. The Hippocampi have brought them as far as they could, so they've brought them to the Miami beach, but they can't take them any further because obviously the oceans are polluted. And they realize that it's been 10 days since they've left camp, and they have to return the fleece tonight, otherwise Thalia's tree is going to die. Clarisse blames Percy for the situation that they're in. Basically, she's not very good at what's the word I'm looking for? Accepting responsibility when things go wrong, you could say. And Percy asks Clarisse what the oracle actually specifically said to her, and he said that like the only way to get the fleece to camp as soon as possible is to jump on a flight. But does anybody have any money? And Tyson says, "Oh, I've got a duffel bag and it's just full of cash, so it's enough for one plane ticket for somebody to go and deliver the fleece to camp tonight." And Percy tells Clarisse that you have to be the one to take the fleece to camp. And complete the quest basically because technically speaking the quest was given to her, it wasn't necessarily given to Annabeth and Percy. And um you know I think it's a big moment for Clarisse as well. I don't think she's ever had like a chance to be a hero, you could say. So he tells her to get on a flight and go. And then just as she leaves, they meet Luke again. He's at the beach as well, and he drags them to to his boat basically, which is Princess Andromeda. And then Luke asks where the fleece is, and Percy's like, "Oh, we don't have it." Clarisse has already taken it to camp, and you know, um, he Percy tells him that, oh, so the reason why you wanted us to get the fleas is to save you the trouble and the effort of having to go and retrieve it from the Cyclops. And he goes, oh, I was just going to use it and then give it so you can use it for Thalia's tree. Although I'm not sure how true of a statement that actually is. I don't think it's a very true statement, but whatever. And Percy, Iris messages camp at the same time as Luke is talking, and he basically says to Luke, who poisoned Thalia's tree? And obviously, because it's an Iris message and the whole camp can see it, he's like, "Oh, I did." And they find out that Luke actually wanted to use the fleece so that he could put the pieces of Kronos back together, so he would come back basically. And after Mr. D hears Luke's confession, he sends Tantalus back to the underworld where he belongs, and Chiron's name's been cleared, thank goodness. And Luke tells Percy like that he's never going to leave the boat alive, and that's where the chapter ends. Chapter 18 is the party ponies invade. So Percy challenges Luke to a one-to-one fight, which I guess he's just doing it for a distraction, so that like Luke can stop sending somebody to go and retrieve the fleece, basically. And as they're fighting, Luke basically nearly kills Percy again, you could say. And, Chiron luckily intervenes with the rest of the centaurs to save him. And, Chiron takes Annabeth and Grover back to safety. Tyson and Percy also jump on the satyrs. Fuck's sake. Come on, centaurs. Get your mythical creatures right. Sorry. Sometimes I can't even read my own handwriting. So I'm looking at a word and I'm like, that doesn't look right. Well, that's not spelled right. Damn it. Since I've started university, sorry, going on a tangent here, I've stopped like handwriting things. So I'm basically a big typer now. So I can type really fast, but my handwriting is freaking atrocious. And they find out that let's come back to the chapter. So they find out that Chiron's tracked the Iris message signal, so where they've sent it from, to try and find them so that he could help them. And Chiron tells him, I know that you know about the prophecy and that he might be the child from the prophecy. But Chiron tells Percy that Kronos was actually his father, and that's like a big, big revelation. Like in the book, it's like, oh my God, that's your dad. And that's where the chapter sort of comes to an end. So chapter 19, second to last chapter, is the chariot race ends with a bang. So Percy ends up back on Long Island. So the centaurs have transported them back to Long Island where Camp Half-Blood is. And Clarisse places the fleece on Thalia's tree and it starts to heal. The other campers obviously had no idea that Percy and Annabeth had disappeared on this quest. I don't know what, I think Nico must have come up with. Oh no, Nico's not in this book, so who would have lied? How did they not notice that Percy and Annabeth were gone? I'm not necessarily sure. I guess they could have assumed that Percy and Annabeth would have gone home. Maybe that's why they didn't say anything. And then Percy and Tyson team up with Annabeth again for the chariot race, because obviously for the first chariot race, Annabeth and Percy kind of had an argument, so it was just Tyson and Percy. But now they're back to being friends again. And then Hermes comes to see Percy again, and Percy tells him that, your son feels like he's been abandoned. And he doesn't really say anything, he just gives him a blue envelope, which is from his dad. And literally all that's written on the letter is brace yourself. So, in other words, Poseidon is warning him that there's something else that's coming, and this isn't the worst of it, basically. And then, Tyson tells Percy that he actually asked his father for a friend, and then Percy came into his life, which is so sweet, lovely moment. And yeah, it was just it's just like one of those wholesome moments where you're just like, oh, that's so sweet. Tyson is the biggest sweetheart is one of the cutest characters that Rick has ever written, honestly. And then Percy and Annabeth and Tyson working together, they win the chariot race, and Annabeth thanks Tyson in front of the whole camp. Um, it's such a big moment for her because obviously she's had a bit of a bad history with Cyclopses, but now she's seen that not all Cyclopses as are bad, the same as not all people are bad. So yeah, there's some really important lessons that Rick teaches people that can be applied to real life as well. And um, Percy finally addresses him as a brother. So he's come to this after this whole being in denial stage, the feeling guilty about abandoning him and stuff. He's finally accepted that he's his brother, which is so nice. And then Annabeth just kisses Percy on the cheek. Oh, so cute. I'm like, oh, one thing about this relationship, I love that Annabeth makes a lot of the first moves because there's this whole like is it misogynistic idea that the boy has to make the first move? And what I love about this relationship is that a lot of the time, like for the you could say the physical affection side of things, Annabeth makes the first move, which is weird. Like you wouldn't expect it from somebody like her, but I guess she just feels so comfortable with Percy that she's like it just comes naturally. Oh, it's so cute. I really hope they put that in season 2. Like I'd love to see that. It'd make my shipping heart so happy. I'd be like, so cute. Oh, hashtag Percabeth, guys. They are too cute. I have decided that after I've done all the books, I'm going to do like one episode which is just dedicated to Percabeth moments that I love and like just stand out to me. So they're gonna come from Heroes of Olympus, they're gonna come from these 5 books, and they're gonna come from Chalice of the Gods as well. Because like they're just too cute, like, and I'm passionate about it, so why not? Why not talk about a ship that I'm passionate about? So yeah, if you guys want to listen to a Percabeth episode, let me know. Because like I'm up for that. Like I'll do that. Okay, so the last chapter is chapter 20, which is the fleece works its magic too well. So, Grover announces that he's actually putting his quest on hold for Pan and he's going to stay at camp for the summer. Oh, yay. Trio's back together. They're so cute. And, Percy tells Grover, let's keep the empathy link. And Grover tells him, if I'm ever in danger, you're going to be in danger as well. And he said, I don't care, which is so cute. Oh, they're literally best friend goals, honestly. They're so cute. They have the ultimate bromance. And I know that Walker and Aryan are going to bring that bromance to life, which I love. They've already started doing it, so I can't wait to see as they grow older how their relationship sort of changes. And then Chiron tells Percy that he's been expelled from the school that he was currently under, maybe for setting the gymnasium on fire is a valid enough reason to get expelled. And Percy calls his mother as well in between. And Tyson receives an iris message from his father about an internship. So basically, to come to the sea and learn where he's most needed, you could say. And Percy is a little bit jealous because obviously his father's never called him to the sea. He's only ever seen his father once, and that was in the throne room in Olympus, and that was in the first book, so it was a long time ago for him. And then Rainbow comes to take Tyson to see Poseidon and to start his internship. Yeah. Oh, cute moment there. And Percy has another dream about Kronos, which is very important. And eventually, Chiron and Percy discover that the fleece has done more than just heal Thalia's tree. They find a girl lying unconscious on the floor, and, she sort of sits up and she introduces herself as Thalia, daughter of Zeus. And that's where the book ends. Oh, what a moment. You know what? It's a really clever cliffhanger. It's not one of those cliffhangers where it's like something bad's happened. It's like what you just want to keep reading. She's like, oh my god, who is this girl? Like Thalia, like this girl that who's been like this invisible string over the last 2 books is finally alive and well and part of the story, which I think is amazing. So yeah, my final thoughts are Clarisse is definitely the best part of this book. Like I love her. She's so funny. She's a badass, but she's so I think there's definitely more of a character arc for her in this book. And I really appreciate that. Like Rick gives everybody equal time in the books. Even though they're written from Percy's perspective, he's able to show other people's character arcs in such a way as well. So yeah, she's definitely the best part of the book. She's absolutely hilarious. She's definitely the most entertaining part of the book. I love that there was more of Luke and more of his relationship with Annabeth and how it's changed like forever. I'm glad that there was those fights and arguments. I'm glad that they've put this tension in their relationship, basically. Um, yeah, and I absolutely adore Tyson. I think that he was one of the best additions to the series, and I love that there was more Percabeth. I think, like Lightning Thief is like Annabeth sort of going from Annabeth and Percy going from strangers to sort of acquaintances to friends. And I think this book is from them going from friends to sort of best friends, you could say. And I love that there was like a cheek kiss and a lot of hugs and things. Oh, they're so wholesome. I love it. I'm not a romantic person, but when it comes to them, I'm like, yes, they're adorable. So yeah, that is the end of the Sea of Monsters book. That's everything I'm going to talk about. In the next episode, which is episode 14, which is Titan's Curse Part 1, I've already done the first half of Titan's Curse. I'm currently reading the second half and taking the notes. So that will be up sometime next week, hopefully. So thank you guys so much for listening in. I really appreciate it. I know that my episodes are really long and I'm really sorry, but I'm really enjoying doing this. Like you can hear my excitement, I think, through the mic. I know when I go to like re-listen to this as I'm uploading it, I'm like, yeah, wow, I sound like a real fangirl. I'm not ashamed though. I don't mind being a fangirl. But yeah, like I said, thank you so much for listening in. Don't forget my episodes are able you're able to stream my episodes on Spotify and on my YouTube channel, which is both at Am's Untitled Podcast. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, same thing at Am's Untitled Podcast. DM me if you've got any content recommendations, any questions for me, and I will speak to you guys at some point next week. Mwah! Bye!